Oral and written communication, the two methods of verbal communication. Anything that emanates from the mouth is referred to as oral communication, and the manner in which these words are pronounced also become part of it. How does oral communication happen in an organization? Through formal channels as well as informal channels, and both these channels are part and parcel of the business organization. Let's look at the characteristics and salient features of oral communication. It's an instantaneous two-way process where you have the person who's speaking and the person who's receiving. It's a one-off exercise. Once it is done, it's over. It's a day-to-day language. Conversational language is what is used while we talk. Presence of a sender and a receiver. Principles. It follows the principles of accuracy, clarity, and brevity. And the effect of body language and speech modulation play a big role as far as oral communication is concerned. Whatever is said neither can be erased or mended. Methods of oral communication. Where are oral communication mostly practiced in an organization? Among individuals, when we have a face-to-face conversation, probably colleagues at the lunchroom, the corridors, when they're sharing brief information or having an informal chat. Interviews, where a panel of interviewers ask questions to an interviewee. Telephone conversations, which are so common in a business environment. Grapevines, the informal methods of a chat or a discussion in an organization. Oral communication among groups happens during negotiations. Trade unions may negotiate with the management for their demands for their employees. Meetings, where lots of items are discussed and the agenda for the meeting is finalized and the conclusions drawn. Lecture speech given by the manager or a senior person to his group of people. Presentations made by experts who come into the organization to a selected audience. Conferences, seminars, workshops, which happen quarterly, monthly, depending upon the needs of various departments of the organization. Oral communication skills are required to help in problem solving. This situation happens very often in business communities. Resolving conflict. They will always have situations where we have to resolve conflict among workers, among management, and so on. Influence people to work together so that the work gets done. Persuade others to be involved in organization goals. So persuasion skills, influencing skills, resolving conflict skills, problem solving skills, all of them require oral communication skills. Be assertive without being aggressive. Developing listening skills. If we can listen well, half the problems are solved in a business environment. Be an effective negotiator. Very often we'll have to negotiate with suppliers, with employees to get some things or the other done. Advantages of oral communication. The advantage of oral communication is that you get immediate feedback about what you're saying. Better relationship, trust builds, because while you're communicating, people are seeing your sincerity in the communication. Time saving, because when you write, you need a lot more time. And by the time it reaches the person where it has to reach, there is a time gap, which is not there as far as oral communication is concerned. Effective tool of persuasion, because when we persuade, we need immediate feedback to change our style and handle the situation. Effective tool of group communication. Smaller groups, it's so much easier with an oral communication. Economical, since we don't have to have a literate person, the person's time and paper and writing skills, all of this does cost money. Allows to measure effectiveness immediately. Immediately, if you hear a clap when you're making a lecture, you know that your lecture has gone off well. It is the only way out during an emergency. Just imagine if there's a fire in the building. You cannot be sending written memos saying the building is on fire. You have to immediately take the public address system and say the building is on fire, please vacate. So oral communication is a must there. What are the disadvantages of oral communication? Lack of retention/documentation. Whenever we say something to an employee or to a client, if it is not in the written form, obviously it has They may not retain what we say, neither it is documented. Distortion in passing the message. If a message is getting passed from one person to the other, like Chinese whispers, it tends to get distorted. And what we want to actually say, and that what must reach the right person may not reach, the message may not reach in the right form. No legal validity since nothing is in written form. Possibility of misunderstanding. If it is heard in the wrong context, it may be misunderstood. Unsuitable for long messages, because where we started and where we ended, people may not be able to keep track of the whole thing. Difficulty in assigning responsibility. Since nothing is written, we don't know where the source from where the message arises sometimes, and hence it's difficult to assign responsibility. It is constrained by physical barriers. If we are talking over the telephone and there is a disturbance, then what we may want to convey may not be well received on the other end, and hence the message may not fulfill its purpose. Not effective when the target group is spread out. It's very difficult to have an oral communication with people all around the world. Though there are different methods coming in today, video conferencing and so on, even then voice distortions, image not in sync with voice, these are issues which still exist. The next verbal communication is written communication. It is impossible to think of business or an organization without written communication. Talk about statutory documents, talk about policy documents, talk about responsibility letters or job descriptions, we need written communication. Methods of written communication, very many. Letters, memoranda, notices, circulars, inquiries, forms, contracts, quotations, everything in written form is what leaves a business or a company or an organization. Characteristics of written communication. Most formal type of communication, where the language has to be looked into, grammar, style, everything matters. Used for documentation, for future use. If a procedure is drawn out and it is written and documented can be used forever in the organization. Used for circulation of information. We've seen very often in organizations where if a circular has to saying that it's a holiday tomorrow, written and communicated where everybody signs so that everybody knows that tomorrow is a holiday. Conventional by nature, it has to follow the rules of writing. Hence, grammar, styles have to be looked into. Presence of both sender and receiver is not necessary. The person who is writing can write at his own time, and the person who has to receive will get at his own time. A creative activity. Writing is an art, a skill, and requires creativity. Time factor. It needs time, because anything which is creative needs to be thought out, the ideas have to be written and structured, and there's a style of writing. It has fewer cycles. Since it is written, there is less of ambiguity and hence lesser cycles. What are the advantages of written communication? It's a ready reference. Once the procedure is drawn and we have documented the whole thing, we can always refer to it whenever we want. Legal defense. A contract document is used in the court of law. Promotes uniformity. Anything which is written and passed on has a uniform message. It doesn't get distorted on its way. Mass access. Anybody can access a written document. Suitable for distance communication. In an oral communication over distance, the person may not be able to see, hence may not perceive the way things are being communicated. But when it is written, it becomes very clear. Image building. A written document given in the newspaper is an image building exercise. Accurate and unambiguous. Permanent in nature because it is written. Facilitates in order to assign responsibility. If responsibility is given in the form of points and there is clarity, then the person can be accountable for that responsibility. Permits substitution and revision whenever required. Disadvantages of written communication. Limited to the literate world. Unless we know how to write, we can't write. Time consuming, because it's a process, it will take time. Lot of paperwork. This will get resolved soon with the electronic media taking over. Needs expertise in expression. When we are writing a document, it requires a style and not everybody can do it. Lack of immediate feedback, because the written document has to reach the person before a feedback can come. So obviously there's a time lag. Costly, since it involves talent, it involves time. More man hours needed than an oral communication.